Hello, this is Neil from iPaintGirls.com, the face behind the art, so behind the tutorials. If you want tons of free tutorials on how to draw and paint digitally and stuff and use Photoshop, please check out my website. The link is in the description, iPaintGirls.com. So I made a huge statement in this video, and I know for those that have been part of my channel for a long time, they know every once in a while I make these videos that are off of the art topic. So the statement I made is that God could not have created the universe. That's a huge statement to make. God could not have created the universe. How can I make that crazy statement? I'm going to show you how I can make that statement. So we're going to start with a simple logic equation. Everyone should be able to grasp this and understand it very easily. So in this here, this represents a sentence or a statement. A glass container, from now on I'm just going to call it the box. The box, the eternal box, has eternally had only water in it. What that statement means is that, or excuse me, I didn't mean to say that. For the last 5 days, this box has had nothing but water in it. For the last 5 days, this box has had nothing but water in it. That's what this whole symbol represents. It represents that for the last 5 days, there has been nothing but water in this box. This represents a different statement. The statement here is, yesterday, this box existed with water and a ball in it. These are the exact same two boxes. One of these two statements has to be incorrect. Either this statement is incorrect or this statement is incorrect. Because if this has been the state of the box for the last 5 days, then one of those 5 days cannot have been this state. Because if one of those days was this state, that the box had existed with a ball and water in it, then it would be untrue to say for the last 5 days the box had nothing but water in it, or only water in it. Right, so that should be easily grasped. And for some reason, you don't understand why that's a contradiction, why those two statements can't be equally, both true at the same time, then you just have to, read more about logic and take logic courses or something, and eventually, hopefully you can train your brain to think logically. Because right now it's not if you don't grasp that. It should be easy to grasp. That is, since yesterday is part of the 5 days, right, let's say this is today, and then this is yesterday. Since yesterday is part of 5 days, then if the box has had nothing but water in it for 5 days, it's untrue to say, well, except for this day, because this day, it had a ball and water in it. By saying for the last 5 days it had nothing but, that's the qualifier. Nothing but, or only water. So if it has nothing but or only water, then it can't have a ball in it, and that's why it's a contradiction. If that contradiction makes sense to you, the next contradiction should also make sense to you, although for some reason people have a hard time with it. I don't know why. Simply change 5 days with forever, or eternity. Eternal means that it's without beginning, without ending. So, without beginning, without ending, this has been the state of the box. The box has always had nothing but water in it. That's the way you can word that. The box has always had nothing but water in it. Since yesterday is part of always, then I can't say, well, yesterday the box had a ball and water in it. Right? It should be just as easy to grasp, but for some reason people have a hard time with it. If the state of the box, without beginning, without ending, in other words, if a state is eternal, and I'm defining eternal to be without beginning, without ending, if that's the state of something, then it has to always be that state can't end. So if the state of the box is that it always only had water in it, or it always had nothing but water in it, then that state can never end. If I say, well, today it has a ball in it, then the state has ended. The state of having nothing but water in it has ended by saying now it has a ball in it. That's the contradiction. So you can no longer say, now if I said that this one's true, it's true that there's a ball in the box. You can see it right now. Look, there's a ball in the box. If I can see there's a ball in that box, then I know that the state of that box wasn't eternally without a ball in it. Because if the state of the box was eternally without a ball in it, then the ball couldn't be in it now. But now I can see the ball's in it. So there, it's a contradiction. I know the person's lying to me when he said, hey, this box has eternally been with only water. Nothing but water has been in this box forever and ever. Because wait, there's a ball in it now, which means the state of having nothing but water in it has changed to now have a ball in it. Oh my gosh. Now when you apply the exact same contradiction to God, people's brains go numb. It's like, it just stops working and they no longer function and they can't see the contradiction. It's quite amazing. So here you have God. This box represents the state of God before the universe. That means before there ever was a universe, before the universe was an actuality, before the universe was a physical thing that actually existed, with stars actually shining and so forth, there was just God. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't believe this. If you believe, well, there was God in something else. For example, I can ask the question, where did God exist before he created anything? Some people say heaven. I don't know why they say that. I'm like, was heaven created or is heaven eternal? Some say created. I say, do you want to change your answer? Because I just asked you. Right? So I'm like, do you want to change your answer? Because I just asked you, where did God exist before God created the universe? They're like, in heaven. And I asked, then is heaven eternal like God, or is heaven created? Is what heaven's created. I'm like, if heaven is created, then how could God have existed there before God created anything, right? So some people say, well, God existed nowhere. God just existed, nothing but God. It doesn't matter what your belief is. This symbol here, hold on, it's all backwards because of the camera. This symbol here, there we go, either represents God existing alone before he created anything, or God existing with all the other eternal stuff. Maybe there's a bunch of other eternal stuff, and God exists with all the eternal stuff. But the universe isn't eternal, he created it. Do you see the contradiction? It's the same as the contradictions I showed previously. If this is God's eternal state, without beginning, without end, then this state can never end. If this is God's state outside of time, then this has to not move. It can't change, because outside of time means no movement. The basic definition of time is movement. If there's no movement, then this could never change to this. Nothing could move, nothing could change. So, if this state ends, then God wasn't eternally in this state. Because now, God is in this state. And the state that God is in now is God with the universe. That's what this symbol represents. This represents God in the universe. The ball is the universe. So now God is not existing alone, or with all the other eternal stuff. God is existing also with this created thing, the universe. You can't get from here to here. It's a contradiction. Because again, if this was the eternal state of God, if God had always been in this state, then he can't be in this state. Because once he's in this state, it becomes untrue that God has always been in this state. Because for this moment, God is not in this state anymore. He's in a new state, which means he wasn't always in this state. If I said Bob was always running, then Bob is always running, period. I can't say, well, yesterday Bob didn't run, or look at now Bob's not running, now Bob's sitting down. If Bob is now sitting down, then Bob wasn't always running. So if God was always not creating, then God can't be now creating. If God was always in a state alone, without anything else, then God can't now exist with something, right? If you still don't see it, you don't see the contradiction, and you want to believe for some reason that it's not a contradiction, please leave a video response showing why it's not a contradiction. That'd be cool. And also, tell me the difference between these two symbols. I'm going to draw two symbols really quick. And I want you to tell me the difference between both of them. Doesn't matter how long they are. They mean the same thing. So the arrows represent the line goes on forever in both directions. That's what those arrows mean. The arrows mean that that line just keeps going without stopping. So what's the difference between those two symbols? They look different, right? The A's are in different places. But the A is arbitrary because it can be anywhere on that line and it means the exact same thing. Since both directions go, since the line goes in both directions forever, then where that A is means nothing. Okay, so why did I just ask you look at those two symbols? Because if A represents when God began to exist with the universe, then this means that God was existing outside of time or God was existing in eternal time. Doesn't matter how you want to word it. God was without the universe. And you can represent that by an infinite line. And then suddenly, God is with the universe. But that's arbitrary. In other words, there could be no purpose really behind the creation of the universe then. So even if you don't see the contradiction that I just showed previously, and you want to pretend it's not a contradiction, that's fine. But then you have to say, well, how did God create with purpose? What was the purpose of creation? It has to be arbitrary, because there could be no point when he said, I'm going to create it here, because there is no here, there's no point. Also you have to think, if God is outside of time, how can God do something like create time? Since creating time is movement. It is moving within time. Time is an interpretation of movement. Outside of time means no movement. Nothing's happening. So if God is outside of time, there's no movement, nothing's happening, how does God create the universe, which is an act within time? Anyway, so that's just a side question. So The symbols would be the same, which means the creation of the universe would have to be arbitrary, without any purpose behind it. Just randomly pop into existence. God just made it randomly pop into existence. It doesn't make any sense when you think about it. Try to grasp why that is. Because you have this no time or this infinite time, which God existed for. And at this point, which is an arbitrary point in that line, since there's an infinity before it, infinity behind it, arbitrary point in that line, that's when God created the universe. Another way to kind of imagine that is, imagine I had a piece of paper that went in every direction, or at least this way and this way, because it's a flat piece of paper. So it goes in that direction, that direction, that direction, that direction, forever, right? Just keeps on going and going and going. And I draw a dot here, or I draw a dot here, or I draw a dot here. No matter where I draw that single dot on that infinite sheet of paper, the placement of it means nothing. They're identical. Wherever I place it, the placement is identical, because wherever I place it, there's still an infinite amount of paper around it. If I place it here, there's an infinite amount of paper around it. If I place it here, there's an infinite amount of paper around it. If I place it here, there's an infinite amount of paper around it, and so forth. So it's arbitrary. The placement of that point is arbitrary. It doesn't matter where it's placed, it's arbitrary. How can I then place it if it all means the same? If this means the same as this, how can both be true, since they mean the same thing? Think about it for a while. Ponder these thoughts, and I think you too will come to the conclusion, if you have a logical mind, you'll come to the conclusion that God could not have created anything. At least if God, exists in some eternal state, then God can have done it. If you feel this is incorrect, please leave a video response showing why. Don't leave a comment, because it's just harder to understand what you're saying, because a lot of people just don't write well and stuff, and it's just hard to grasp what the hell they're trying to say. It'd be easier if you make a video response, then I can just kind of check you out and see if it's worth responding to, which most likely it won't be, because I've heard a lot of wacky answers, and they just don't grasp why it's a contradiction. It's a problem. But anyway, if you feel that you're that super genius that can solve this, please leave a video response and title it Super Genius, because I want to watch it. By titling it Super Genius, I know you actually listened to all this. If you want to leave a comment, please start it with Super Genius. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother responding to it. And even if it starts with Super Genius, I might not respond to it either, just because it might not be worth it. But start with Super Genius, and then I'll at least check it out. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Again, if you're like, hey, what the hell, why are you making this random video about whether God created the universe or not? I come here to check out art tutorials. Hey, keep coming back for art tutorials. I'm going to have an art tutorial coming up again soon in a couple of days. So I know I went a while there without putting up art tutorials. It was like a month or something, I don't know. I've been going through a lot of personal stuff and everything, so it's just haven't had the time or the desire. But I'm getting back into it again, so I'm always going to have art videos up for you, new art videos. So stay subscribed, and you'll get your new art videos. They come and they come. Every now and again, I make weird random videos. I'm going to be putting a video up because people have requested it of how to properly do different punches, how to increase your speed in your punches and stuff like that, and your power and whatnot. All right, thank you for watching. I'm out. This is Neil.